So in these 20 years, what are these people being able to achieve in numbers? The GDP per capita double. The GDP per capita double. The GDP per capita double from $1.2 thousand to $4,000 in the 20 years. Poverty rate drastic drop from 60% to 10%. The average annual growth rate was 8% during these 20 years. Life expectancy went from the age of 37 to 50. And gross enrollment ratio in the primary education raised all the way up to 71% by the end of the 70s when it started from nowhere. In fact, the model that was used was a very open business to outside. This is one of the most open countries in sub-Saharan Africa. State capitalism was really used. State was really steering up and was a real catalyst to the private sector. There was a lot, I think 240 state-owned enterprise parastatals in all the sectors, agriculture, shipper line, to construction, all agriculture, agro-business, investment in human capital also. And the three key sectors that President Ufwe worked on to beat all that was one, agriculture. He realized that he needed resources to finance this infrastructure and everything. And where to find these resources at that time, it was to sell, commodities. That was the easiest one. A lot of land, human labor, and need in the world for cocoa, coffee, and so on and so forth. So he decided to go for that. And second, he built infrastructure, road infrastructure, transport infrastructure that he felt was necessary to be able to be efficient, have a very good logistics. And third, human capital. He invested almost 30% of the budget per year in human capital. His dream was that one day, these people he was training will take over and should normally do better than he himself, which story unfortunately was not as easy as he expected. A lot of social policy. You have at that time, education was all free, the health was very good, housing project, really social housing, unemployment benefit. We could say that really life was much better than, later on. And, still, this is what we call the Ivorian miracle that happened at the end of the 90s. Then, from the 80s to 20,000, let's say, drop. Even though in 78, something like that, the commodities price went 200% high. We made a lot of investment. Everything you've seen there was investment. Now we are to ask ourselves later down the line if these investments were as efficient as they should have been. Because when the price of the commodities went down, we were not able to meet the debt service. And we could say that the country went bankrupt, and there was other issue but to call the IMF, like the country used to do at that time. And when IMF came, there are no other choice to say, you got all these things, so investment stops, no growth anymore, privatization. The whole economy was, upside down, struggle, a lot of layoff. And then I guess it brought us all the way down, and the key figures, after the 30% drop in prices, we realized that all the state companies' debt was accounting for almost 2/3 of the country's debt, external debt. So we have to reduce, almost stop the investment. Unfortunately, the policy choices were not as good. high unemployment rate. We had to reduce state spending, privatization, I said it, end of the state welfare. GDP per capita dropped from 2,400 all the way to 1,400. Poverty rate, which went from 60% of poverty all the way down to 10%, went back 10% all the way to almost 40% of poverty rate. Average growth rate was about 1%. Life expectancy dropped down to 50 years. We had now, after all this privatization and reducing the state spending, also go for structural adjustment with the IMF, but also monetary adjustment. In 1993, we had to adjust the money. And the military coup arose in 1999. And when you really, really look back, you think that there is a close relationship between the decline of the economy and the political crisis. As long as the people were having a normal, decent life, job, housing, you know, middle class, they had things to lose. So no one would be interested in getting anything crazy. But as the youth that we train started to be more and more, and you know, Cote d'Ivoire was one of these countries in the sub-Saharan Africa where all the students that went abroad were coming back home. Most of them, few of them stayed outside. At my time, you know, staying in overseas after having finished his studies was something weird, you know. No people will consider that, you know. Either you find a wife over there or a husband, but even a job, a very exciting job, will not make you stay outside. So not only the people who were coming from outside, but a huge amount of people who were laid off after we closed all these parastatals, but also the youth that were trained in the country start to be quite an amount of people that couldn't find a job, started to be unhappy. In 1989, we started with the bold declaration and the fall of the Berlin Wall, and you know, the old democracy started, and people started to yell over the places, and that's the worst time, you know, to have a very declining economy. It brought us all the way down to what you know. We had this military coup in 1999, and then we get to what I call the lost decade. 10 years, 10 very long years talking, just talking every single day about politics, about elections, about how we should do to be sure that we're a good democracy, no investment. In fact, at that time, we were in the debt relief program. We're fighting to get back and have to reach the HIPIC and having our debt canceled. So we were not receiving any money from the major financial institution, financial development institution, neither from the private sector, because, as you know, as I said, we're bankrupt. But added to that, instead of thinking about how we'll get out of that, it took just 10 years talking about politics. You know, I remember going to the government, going to the board of ministers and talking about, you know, how the electoral code should be written, you know, how the identification, the ID, you know, 10 long years all the way to 2010 to be able to hold elections, finally. You know, so lost decade is terrible. You know, you cannot imagine how hard it can hit a country, because you are locked in your politics, talking about all that. You don't even see the kids growing, being born, you know, and getting there. You don't think that the road that you've built are not maintained, the house are not maintained. You're concentrating in only so many other superficial things, what I call superficial things, that you don't see that. So when we get to 2010, and unfortunately, add to that 2011, with the post-electoral crisis, the country was at the verge of chaos. I mean, airport was closed, port was closed, road were closed. You had snipers all over the places, rebellion, normal army. I mean, everything was upside down. People were locking themselves down in their house. A parent died in a house, you cannot even get out to bury him. You have to bury your dad or your mom in your garden. You couldn't even go out in a pharmacy to buy a drug for your kids. You know, the country was just, I mean, it just stopped. So at the end of the day, finally, when we came out of the hotel where we were fighting ourselves to take over, what you could see in the street, you wouldn't believe it. That's not the country we used to know. And people were in shock. So coming from there, to tell you the truth, during that last decade, the GDP per capita went all the way back to $1,013 per capita, GDP per capita. Meaning, we reached the 1960 level. Can you imagine? From 79, where we were way up, it took us around 30 years to move back to where we were in the 60s. Poverty rose from 38% to 55%, telling yourself that in the late 70s, we were at 10%. We went to 50%. More than half of the population was living under the ceiling of poverty. Average growth rate, almost zero. Investment stopped. No maintenance of infrastructure during all that time. Business closed, and a lot of business closed. There was this issue with the French. All of them, you know, left the small and medium-sized business. Then unemployment rate was just crazy. State was just standstill. That's all I can remember. And not to talk about, as I said, the post-election crisis in 2011, you know. That was just, you know, it's just a nightmare. No one can really explain that, because we never thought we could reach such a place when you've known Côte d'Ivoire and you've known, you know, how nice the people were and how dynamic the economy was. Then after that lost decade, we have to stop and look at something very interesting, chart. You're stepping in my slide, guys. You see, when we take 1960, watch this very closely. Côte d'Ivoire, GDP per capita was 1,226, which means we were just right after Nigeria, Senegal, Malaysia. Then when we came to 1978, where we reached the peak, talking the miracle of Côte d'Ivoire, our GDP per capita was 2,471, which means we were just right after South Korea, 3,500, and Malaysia, 2,900. Côte d'Ivoire, in 1971, was exactly close to South Korea and Malaysia. Thailand, Morocco, India, even China. China was just $300 GDP per capita. Now, when you come to 2000 and then to 2010, look at where Côte d'Ivoire is. But the interesting thing is that if you pay attention, you'll see South Korea from the 90s, donc 1819 to 2010, multiply its GDP per capita by almost 8, I should say. 8. From 3,000 to 23,000. Malaysia from 3,000 to 9,000. Côte d'Ivoire quite went down from 13 to 12. What happened? What happened? What happened during that time is the question. Because if you don't answer this question, you don't know how to move further down the line. So let's move. The revival is then, we took that country at very low point, a very low point that I just showed you, GDP per capita back to what we had in 1960. And during these 10 years, from 2011 to 2020, we realized that there was nothing else to do but to rush. And you had to do every single thing at the same time. Because peace and security was the main issue. If we could not come back to peace and security, nothing else could be done. So peace and security was the key concentration sector. President, taking from his experience in the US, set up a National Security Council that was meeting weekly, then later on monthly, every single week, as we had a board of ministers to talk about economic issues. We have a National Security Council meeting talking about the high-ranking, army and security ministries and all that, talk about, what do we do? How we get back to normal life, just in the city, in the country, And that was, a lot of work to get back to security. National reconciliation was also, and social cohesion was an issue. Because, at the verge of the military coup, we know what was going on in the country. I don't want to come back, but the whole country was upside down. Reconstruction and economic recovery was an issue. And a road has a life expectancy. If you don't maintain the road after 20 years, it all goes, as you know, rebooting the administration. The administration will change, I don't know, maybe. Some ministries had 10 ministers in over 8 years. They were just like that, and no project was moving ahead. And the priorities of 2016-2020 was strengthening institutions, peace, social, and cohesion, as well as governance. Structural transformation of the economy started, improving living condition and of the poorer with the government social program, and promote women and the youth. That was the priority that was set up from these 10 years. And the result that we're able to reach after these 10 years, first and more important was that the General Security Index, the World Peace Index, went from 4 to 1.1, 1.2. And we were even surprised ourselves to be able to achieve such things. In a city where you could not go from one suburb to the other one without being arrested 3, 4, 5 times for no reason, being asked anything, and you could say nothing, and you could ask no one. To a country where you can go from one city to another city, to one suburb to another suburb at any time, day or night, and not even see one policeman in the street. Sometimes you will ask yourself, is there any security? Yes, there's security. There's 1,000 video camera installed in the whole city. No car, no human can pass anywhere in the city without being filmed or picture captured. That helped a lot in scientific policy, as you know. So, and I won't go more than that, but a lot of work. People were trained, police men were trained, and the administration of security was very good. We strengthened institutions, we restore administration, strengthen women in civil rights, participation in political life, upgrade infrastructure, a lot of investment in infrastructure upgrade. We were able to obtain debt cancellation, and then we were fortunate to reach an exceptional growth rate of 8.4% from 2012 all the way to 2019. One of the best of not Africa, but the whole world. We were able to control inflation rate less than 30%, increase investment, private investment triple in the period, going from 8.9 to 20.9%. We improved business climate with more attractive investment code that was made in the economy. And education, 40 classes built, success rate at the exam really improved. 80,000 staff recruited. The health improved. Healthcare system was put in place. More than 95% of children are vaccinated now. The agriculture, cocoa and cashew, first world producer. Cotton, we improved production by 75%. Rubber, we tripled production. Rice, we now are able to meet third-fourth of our demand. Food production multiplied by 2. And water, 95% of Ivorians have easy access to drinking water, going from 55%. Electricity now will be reaching 2020 with 79 to 80% of the population having electricity, and by 2025, every single village, more than 500 population, will have electricity. We know about all these results. But road also, ICT, a lot of things done during that period. And we were able to improve the quality of life for women, for youth at the same time. And we were able to have also job creation, 3 million jobs created, improving the purchasing power with guaranteed minimum wage for the civil servant. Salary was blocked for more than 20 years. It was unblocked, increased by 50%. Retirement package were made. Farmers, 60% of their CIF price was given to them all the way. Poverty rate went from 55 to 39%. 1.6 million people were lifted out of poverty, and 227 households were able to benefit from social and safety net program. Poor spending went triple in that period. So after all that, international recognition. Doing business, we won 67th place, Mo Ibrahim 24th place, but the first in terms of performance over 10 years. Transparency International, we won 48 plus. MCC, first compact agreement was in 2017, but the interesting point about MCC was that it was the fast progression over 5 years of key MCC indicators since MCC was created and put in place by the US. We were really congratulated for that, and now it's going really well with them. Financial rating, Moody's and rate us from B1 to Ba3, and Fitch rated us from B to B+. As far as diplomacy is concerned, we went as far as to become non-permanent member of United Nations Security Council. So when a country was in the verge of chaos like we were 10 years back, to tell you the truth, when we came over, no one among us thought that we could, after 10 years, reach that where we were. And so that's why we're quite proud to have been able to do that much. Doesn't mean that we don't have yet a lot to do, but the growth in GDP per capita went then from 1.213, what we had in 1960, as I said, to all the way 2.286, meaning almost doubling the GDP per capita in 10 years. The highest one per capita in the ECOWAS, beyond Ghana and Nigeria, for a country who has no oil, no that much gold, and mining industry. We think it's really, really exceptional. And it doesn't mean there's not a lot of things to do, but yet we can stop there and say we're coming from so far, we're there, thanks God. And that's where we start our thinking process. To say, okay, good. We went from KO, we reach where we reach now. The biggest mistake to make is the one that we did in 1979. We the highest, we the best. Let's just let it happen. No. Resilience is an issue. Are you able to resist to external shock? We were not in 79. We cannot take that chance today. We cannot stand still. We cannot go back. We have no other choice but to move forward. So first objective about looking beyond and thinking about strategy, how to secure hard-won gains so that we don't slip away and strengthen our development and resilience. GDP per capita has just to keep moving, growing and growing and growing. No return back. What do we do for that? Second, we have to accelerate our development so that the majority of Ivorians reach middle-class status by 2030. Which means by 2030, today we are 25 million, and in 10 years down, we're going to be 35 million. Out of that, 19 million people will be active. How do you find an appropriate education for these people, health center for these people, job for these people? If you don't think about that today, if you just go in your day-to-day business, you're going to have surprises. Because these kids connected to internet and the world, they won't just stay you talking nice words. No way, it doesn't work like that. We could see it all over the world. You get to be ready, and you get to start now. And to be able to meet the challenges of so many numbers, you need to go much faster than you've been doing in the past years. Knowing that we think we've gone very fast, but yet it's not enough. We think we have to do more. We think we could go faster. How do we do it? When you see how it's been hard to get back from where we were to now, and someone says, that's not enough. You should just double it. You just sit back and you say, hey, the guy is dreaming, you know, except just giving my life to, that's no way we can do it. So we say, let's just think about it. And we start thinking about it, and we say, we need to have a goal. We have to have a dream. We need to have a vision. What is our vision? 10 years from now. And we set a vision. We say, we want in 2030 Ivorian to be better trained, healthier, more productive, fully assuming their responsibility in society. We want to have a people proud of their values and part of the large middle class. And last but not least, a more modern society, united, fulfilled, and at peace. That's where we want to be in 10 years from now. And the key figures that will show that we have reached that point in 2030 will be that. Double our per capita income. Poverty rate, which is 39% now, should be less than 20%. Life expectancy should go from 57 to 67. Child mortality rate from 79.3 per thousand to 45. And employment population should double from 8 million now. We will have to create in the next 10 years 8 million jobs, at least, minimum. How do you do that? If you want to reach this point, we need to know what are the challenges ahead. Because that could be as easy as we just said. There are challenges. What are these challenges? Let's go over them quite quick. This thing seems to be very slow. The first one was the one I was talking about, demographic challenges. 35 million in 2030, including 40% of young people that you'll have to deal with. Nearly 60% living in cities, 40% in rural area, and 90 million of these people reaching the working age, having to work, so you guys need to find them a place. I mean, you better. When you see the challenges, we have to accelerate the pace of job creation in order to observe the liability of employment and the new working age. Today, look at where Côte d'Ivoire is ranking. Kenya is 84, Malaysia is 81, Vietnam is 80, Ethiopia is 74, Ghana is 59, meaning they are able to observe, taking for instance Malaysia, 81 of a class age of people getting out, they are able to observe them in the economy, being agricultural, being whatever. We, today, can absorb only 50%. It was 30% back in 2010. We definitely have to move all the way up to the 80%. This is one of the challenges. %80 of higher education graduate in humanities and human science today. 80% of them. When you're talking about digital economy, you're talking about industry, you're talking about agro-industry, and you have 80% of your higher education that graduate in humanities and human science. Doesn't seem to make things easy. 2020 result of baccalaureate was 124 admitted out of 311 candidates, 40% success rate. What are you doing with the other 60%? Where are they going? Have you technical and professional training? Have you whatever? You have to answer the question. Otherwise, these people are going to hang around, and these are going to create you a lot of problems as years goes by. Life expectancy, we expect, is 57. That cannot stay that way. 10% of infant deaths before 5 years. 30 to 40% of medicine is bought on the street because people can't afford to go into a pharmacy. And you know they're killing themselves because you know where these drugs comes from. Dependency of agriculture on commodities, quite vulnerable still. Low increase in key agricultural yield, we'll see later on. Large post-harvest losses. Low level of processing transformation of key agricultural raw material, we know that also. Now, when we went to the dream, which is the vision, and then we go over the challenges, we stop and say, that's not an easy task. Why don't we go outside in the world and try to see how people that were at a certain point in the same situation where have performed, and how have they been able to do so? Taking, for instance, Vietnam. After the end of the 75 years, 1975, Vietnam War with the US, the country was in the chaos. And yet, if you look at Vietnam today, it's just a leapfrog. How did they make it? Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Korea, all these people grew like hell, you know. And you look at them, Vietnam is almost the same superficie of land like we do have. Yes, education is good, but that can explain everything, you know. So we went into each and every of these countries to look, to talk, to watch, to understand how they did it. Can we just duplicate it? What can't be done here? What can be done? So on and so forth. That's what we call best practice benchmark. And we went through a couple of items. So we stop there for a minute. And you look at in the 60s, between 60 and 65, you'll be very surprised that South Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, Morocco, and Cote d'Ivoire was kind of almost, we should say, in the same level of development. Very little difference. And look at the curve. Look at the development curve of each of these countries. And we should ask ourselves, why? Why Korea went so high and so fast? Then you have Thailand. Then you have Vietnam, who just came in the middle of the 90s, in middle of the 80s. 1985, when they started with the Do Moi program, after they realized that, pure communism will bring them nowhere, and they changed to come back to what they call a social economy market. I don't know what it means, but that means they have to move. Morocco, same thing, And yet, here we are, in the green line. We don't move. We don't take that curve, So there's something wrong somewhere. If the curve doesn't take the right turn to go up north, then we have a problem. The GDP per capita, you could see, was 945 in 60 for South Korea. And if you look at the same line down here, when Korea is 1960 was $945, Cote d'Ivoire was 1,000 something. And you look at 2018, South Korea has multiplied his GDP at constant price by 25. Thailand has multiplied by 11. Thailand was 570, where Cote d'Ivoire was 1,224, which means almost Cote d'Ivoire was double of Thailand. In 2018, Thailand was 5 times. Vietnam was 5 times, was 11 times. Vietnam was 5 times. Morocco was 5 times. Cote d'Ivoire almost didn't move during those 6 years. So now, if we want to move, if we want to change the track, let's look at in each of these different countries some specific issues that might explain what happened. And I took just a couple of them. I'll go very fast, just to show. Rice. We're producing rice. Vietnam is producing rice. Vietnam was producing 8 million tons of rice in the 60s. Today, they produce 44 million tons of rice. Cote d'Ivoire is the green line. We're producing 156,000 tons. We're producing now 2 million tons. Why? There are almost 330,000 something square, kilometers, exactly the same superficie we have. Now why such a difference? Yes, today there are 100 million people around that. We should be 25 million. That doesn't explain that. Because everybody is not growing rice over there. The yield is almost double the one we have. And it looks so strange to me that I had to go in the field rice. The guy right in the front there with the Vietnamese hat and a blue shirt with his bag, it's your state minister in front of you. Because I had to see this from my eyes. I say, maybe there's something that I don't understand, there's something I don't get. Then I should come back to Cote d'Ivoire here, which I know already, because in my consistency, I have my people over there growing rice, and I went there, and these people are as simple as the peasant that we have here. There's nothing different. Exactly the Vietnamese we see in the movies, in the Vietnam War, running all over the places with their heart. Exactly the same thing, not talking a single word of English. And these people are just 2 hands, 2 arms, 2 feet exactly like we are. But there's a story, there's a reason, and we'll come back to that. Yes, because we started to talk in this nice office in Hanoi, in Ho Chi Minh City, and the economists were explaining to me how they did that, how they did that. It didn't make sense to me. That was all talks. I had to touch in the ground, you know, what was the reality, to really feel it, and I went on the ground, and I did understand. I might share part of it today, but since there's no free lunch, we might talk about that later on. Pineapple. We are a big grower of pineapple. We know that from far away. Now look at how Brazil went high. In the 60s, in the early 60s, we were almost at the same thing, less than 500,000 production. Today, Brazil is producing 2,600,000 tons. And how much are producing? 50,000 guys. Tell me, what's the hell going on? What happened? We don't want pineapple anymore? It doesn't sell anymore? We just want to eat it? We don't want to sell it anymore? I don't know. If you want to grow, if you want to create jobs, you do like Brazil did. What did they do? And what didn't we do? If I cannot answer this question, there's no meaning of making a strategic plan. Every country has a strategic plan. Senegal 40-40, Benin 40, whatever, 50, Congo 50, 60, whatever. Everyone has his number. That's not the issue. There's something wrong somewhere. And if we guys don't ask after the question and do not, if we're not serious enough and honest enough to say there is something wrong that we have to fix, we can make it, we have the potential, but we should fix it. So you could just see, talking about economy, how it can change. Then Brazil is creating with its pineapple 500,000 jobs, and we 32,000 jobs. Thailand, mango. We're producing very nice mangoes here, up north, very good quality. Look at it in the 60s. They were producing 350,000 tons. We're producing 3,000 tons. In 2018, they are producing 3,791,000 tons. And we, 93,000 tons. What's wrong with us once again? They are creating 400,000 jobs in the mango sector, where we have only 12,000 jobs. They are making $3 billion, where we're making $60 million. Cassava in Vietnam, producing almost the same thing in 1961. I can swear to you, they don't eat achi over there. So it's not the main, Yet today they are producing 31 million tons of cassava. We're producing 5 million tons. Go over that. Cocoa in Malaysia. In cocoa in Malaysia, at a certain point, that's the yellow, they started producing because they realized there's no return. So they started just to transform, and they're making more, as much money as we are making. Aquaculture in Vietnam, it's just crazy. I was talking about it yesterday in the TV show I was called for. This tilapia that we are eating here, very good with our achi, You know that 95% of that tilapia is coming from Asia? Frozen. Don't even know what they ate, how they died. We just eat. That's it. And here all over the place, water all over the place. I went to Vietnam. I said, I have to understand that, How come we can make this fish? I mean, is it engineers? Is it technology? What is it about that we don't understand? Vietnam is creating 1.6 million jobs, where we are creating 70,000 jobs. Why? here I am. I went into the field. I had to touch this tilapia. Are they the same that I eat with my acheke here? I went in the boat. I went to see these fishermen. I talked to them. I said, how you guys are working? I looked at the water, the lake, the river. And I realized that there was a vast program in the delta of Mekong. Dirty water. Water quality is a real issue. When you compare it to the water that we have here, river, lake, laguna, everything clean, as you have seen. And we're just walking by our water and waiting for the frozen tilapia from Asia, you know, to eat our acheke. Yeah. You guys have to answer this question to me because I don't know. Yet we want to grow. But I learn, and that's the more important thing. And we'll share that later on. Palm oil in Malaysia. You know, the interesting thing about tilapia is that Brazil, which is one of the great exporters of the world, tilapia, came here to take their genetics. Because we have a research center here developed in cooperation with the French, well reputed at that time, and they came to take the fingerlings, and they went with it in Brazil. And 40 years down, they are the third exporter of tilapia in the world. They are creating many jobs. Palm oil is the same. We have a research center, another research center here is called Lame, Hero. The Malaysian people came to Côte d'Ivoire to get the genetics of these plants. That is a good one. And know what happened? We went together from almost 100,000 tons in production. Today, Malaysia is doing 20 million tons of production of palm oil, the biggest in the world, right before Indonesia, making quite a lot of money, employing 600,000 people. And we're just making 8. The gross production of palm oil, we're making 410,000 tons, where they are making 20 million tons. We don't have any more lands? Yes, plenty of lands. We don't have any more manpower? Yes, there's plenty of people. So what's wrong with us? What happened? Why? Yeah. Because you have to explain how they went so high so fast, and why you just stay there, our GDP per capita. Then we stop there, but there's so many other issues we could see, not only in agriculture, but there's many other areas that we went through, you know, textile, industry, whatever, you know. And we say, what lessons can we learn from that, you know? What were the key success factors of these people who were 50 to 60 years back at the same level that we were? What did they do that we didn't do? What mistake that we made, that they did make? If we cannot learn from that, then there's no way of doing any strategic thinking process. So we learned that in countries that emerge rapidly, the private sector has been the engine of growth and job creation. No doubt. That's not the state. And then we add, but it's really the state that promotes the private sector. You should keep that in your mind like a gold rule and lesson. So the state defined a vision, identify priority sectors and adapt institutions to the sector, the key private sector they want to see develop. They are builders, they can develop basic infrastructure, strengthen the human capital. They are regulator, they put structural reform in place, regulate margin distribution in the value chain. They are catalysts, set up a loan mechanism, promote private initiative at the financial and fiscal level, It's a promoter, attract business partners, promote opportunities for the benefit of the private sector, and is an orchestrator, which means increase, animate, harmonize favorable conditions for the private sector in priority sectors, and pilot the consultation with all stakeholders. That's what these people have done. That's what these people have done. Now, the trick about that is that when we reach our crisis in the late 70s and early 80s, what we were told is that you don't put an inch of your feet in anything close to the world private. You have to just step back, build a road, build hospital, build school, and create fiscal incentives, create a secure enough environment so that it'll be attractive to the private sector, to the business people. Yet you do everything of that, but these people don't come. And what do? You just stay still, waiting for them? For how many years? And yet you have your people on your hands. You have to find job for them. You're not going to hire them in the state. That doesn't work. That simple doesn't work. And we have to tell that to ourselves. You like it or not, this is true. Now, you might not trust me. You might trust me because the bad experience you have with me is every single time I've put one foot in the private sector, it's been going wrong. So now you're fearing that. These people, if you let them do it, it's going to be catastrophic. But please, we're the second generation. What happened 20 years, 30 years, we can just keep that forever and be told that we cannot do, we cannot do. Other people did, and they did succeed. Why can't we try? We're going to try again. This generation we are in is going to try whatever. If we have to pay for our mistake, we'll pay a second time. And we'll try the third time. And we might try it a fourth time. But we will not use wrong road that didn't bring no one anywhere. So now, at the end of the day, we came up with our own strategy and our own program, which is going to start, hopefully, from the 32nd of October. And which will be the strategy? A true paradigm shift, making us change few things, which is we have to accelerate the structural reform and transformation of the economy and the social sector, and we have to accelerate the structural and cultural transformation of the administration and its governance. If we don't change that, we just keep on going as we've been doing, business as usual, and these people keep on moving up. So, accelerate the structural transformation of the economy means that a state has to adopt a new model, support strategic commercial sectors, and orchestrate the private sector in investment and development. And at the same time, we should also, as far as the state is concerned, change the perception of wealth creating across actors, private sector, not government. You know, very often the administration, because it's administration, the people in the administration think that they do create wealth. Sometimes the private sector, you know, they're wealthy, they're thief, should just take part of their money, getting too much money, and we are the one. They even forget that they are paid by the private sector. A more responsive and efficient administration, a genuine partnership and change of mind and attitude toward the private sector, and a promotion based on the merit, zero tolerance as far as corruption is concerned. This is what these guys did. Now you have to choose. Either you can do that and you move like them, or you just admit, here, we cannot do that. That, like some people told me, that's a dream, that can never happen here. And this cannot happen, so let's keep business as usual. Don't talk about anything else, because you won't move 1 inch from where you are. So we stepped up and wrote 5 big key programs. One, strengthen security, peace, and social cohesion. Second, transform structurally our economy. Third, develop the region, because Abidjan cannot be the own places, and develop a more efficient and committed and responsive administration and leadership, and put the people at the heart of development in having an inclusive Côte d'Ivoire. The rest is not important. I think that I guess we can just go to the conclusion, and we can just open the floor for questions, because the rest is just detailed, and at that stage I don't think it will be very useful. Modibo, can you go to the conclusion? Conclusion is, that's possible. I went, I saw this rice land. I went, I saw this tilapia. I saw these people. I know my country. No one can tell me it's not possible. What they did, we can do it. Second, it's imperative. We cannot wait one day more. Now is the time to act. I thank you very much for your attention.
Mr. Minister of State, thank you so much. So it was a presentation of the Minister of State, Secretary General of the Presidency, Republic of Côte d'Ivoire. We're going to open the questions, but I will introduce the first questions. Yet, based on what the protocol team told me, we may change the place of Mr. Minister of State. Yeah? Le protocole.
I've been asked a hard question yesterday, so please have mercy on me.
So I have a number of questions that I would like to ask, a number of things that I would like to better understand. But I opened I'm in the Q&A right now, so if there is anything that any one of our guests would like to ask us a question. So, Mr. Minister of State, the first thing I understand is that we are on a 10 years time horizon. So, all this to be achieved in 10 years. When I was seeing, let me see these countries, Thailand with the mangoes, Brasilia.
20 years.
20 years. So
it took them 20 years.
20 years. So I said, but are you trying to discourage us? Because when we see the gap between us and them, but do you actually believe it is possible for us to achieve another miracle?
I truly believe it, and that's what I told you. I think that every time I look at this and I say, gee, I mean, this is quite crazy. I mean, that might just not be possible. Then I watched this picture that I show you from Abidjan. Yeah. This guy who did it in 20 years. And I'm just putting myself at this place in the 60s. And this guy showing this map to someone and telling him, 20 years down, this is how my country is going to look. And the guy telling him exactly what you're telling me right now. Are you serious, guy? You should be crazy. So first, you need to have a dream. Second, you have to believe. Third, you need more than believe, you have faith. But I went to the field. I can say I know my country, I know my people, and if we are able to lift up the challenges that I just put it here, there is no reason at all that we cannot reach that. And also the second is that the past 10 years, I know where we're coming from. And I can swear to you, 10 years back, getting out of this hotel and looking how the country was, I never thought we could be where we are. So everything is in your mind, and I think it's possible to be short.
So how are we going to do it? You showed us a slide that says key success factors, 6 major roles of the state. And I would like to come back on them. And because when I read every one of them, it seems to me that that's what you've been doing during these last 10 years. Like a strategist, I don't know if we can have the same slide. I don't remember the number of the slide. Define a vision.
Yeah, Modibo, you know the key success factors slide?
So you have, the state should be strategist. So it has to define a vision. That's what you did. You defined the vision. Identify priority sectors. You did it. It should be a builder. Develop basic infrastructure. You did it. Strengthen human capital. You did it. Regulator. You did the same over the last 10 years. Put structural reforms in place. Regulate margin distribution in the value chain. You play the role of a regulator. A catalyst to set up a loan mechanism, to promote private initiatives. You did it. Promoter, attract business partners. That's what you did. Orchestrator, increase, animate, and harmonize favorable conditions for the private sector. What is going to change, Mr. Minister of State?
Unfortunately, we didn't do that. That's not what we did.
I believe, do you agree? Because I thought you were doing that
No,
during last 10
if
years.
we're doing that, I won't be standing in front of you talking about it.
Okay.
No. Maybe I didn't make myself more maybe understandable. Maybe I should rephrase it or maybe give an example. Let me give you the example of the palm oil in Malaysia, maybe to show you the way it is. When I say that the state, we should go through a paradigm change, it means today I do not involve myself in the private sector. I make a proper environment for them to make their business. For instance, I'm producing almost 800,000 tons of raw cashew nut. I want to transform 50% of the cashew nut in Côte d'Ivoire because this is the added value, not only in wealth, but in jobs creation. Now, what do? I just say, if someone comes here and you want to, process my raw cashew nut, I'm going to give him 10 years tax-free holiday. I'm going to say that every equipment that is going to import will be all tax deducted, free from custom charges. What else am I going to do? Maybe I'm going to cut electricity price by half for him. And maybe I'm going to put policemen all around his factory so that no one will rob. I'm creating an environment that is conducing to attract him. But now he doesn't come. He doesn't come. And yet here I am. I need to create jobs. I have 240 people from a class of age getting out there in the street. Some of them got a degree. Some of them didn't finish school. The state can hire only 15,000 people per year. Now, I have 200 people over my hand. What do I do with them? And I'm waiting. I'm doing as much as I can in the industry, in the cocoa, in whatever sector. It doesn't work. Now, how have these people succeeded? How did they attract people? What have they done that I have not done? Then if you take the palm oil industry, there is a value change, which means, first of all, in the production area, I have to make sure that the producer are having the best genetics. I'm making sure that they can have the fertilizer. I'm making sure they can have access in water and irrigation. I'm making sure that they can have mechanization so that the yield will be the best. Now, I'm going to make sure that I will have an industry that will transform. Now, that industry that will transform will produce such ton. I have to make sure that they will sell it. I won't let just my industry go over in the world and try to sell in the UK, sell in the US. It doesn't work like that. You know, the country is the marketer. I took to the US. I talk with the UK people. I say, my country want to sell you this. And they tell me, yes, we can buy from you, but it should be produced in such standard, Food and Drug Administration, whatever. I go to Food and Drug Administration. I say, what are your standards? He say, here it is, my standard. I call them home. I create a center that is specialized in quality control to meet FDA regulation and standards. Now, I train my producer to meet that standard. My producer, he say, you have given everything to the growers and are producing so much, but my factory cannot transform all that. I have to increase equipment. How much money do you need? This amount of money. The bank has to give you the money. You need to have access on credit. This is not the private sector role to look for money. This is my role. Because if this guy doesn't have the money, he will not increase production. My grower won't be able to sell, and the US demand won't be met. So I'm not only improving the yield, helping the growers grow more, but I'm making sure that the industry has the money to increase the production capacity. At the same time, I make myself sure they have a market. Here, this is not what I do. I say the grower is the private sector. He just grows his palm oil tree. He's free. He does whatever he wants. The industry, he goes to see the bank. He looks for the money. If his files or numbers are not good and the bank doesn't want to give him the money, they don't give him the money. This is not my role. I'm the state. I'm not the private sector. I don't have to involve. The guys go in the state. He look for the, he goes to Safeway or whatever. He goes to sell his thing. If people don't want to buy, this is not my problem. This is his problem. This is private sector. I don't get in. I have never seen one of these countries where the state is just stepping back and watching his private sector grow. But if the private sector doesn't grow, who is going to hire my people? Where am I going to get revenue to invest in health, education, infrastructure? Where am I going to get? Yeah. So at the end of the day, the growth of the private sector is your responsibility. If what you do doesn't make them grow fast enough, this is your responsibility. I was giving an example. The guy is making, he has his factory, he's making 500 tons of oil from the palm oil. And he's happy with that. He's making money, he's having a nice life, his kids is going, he's making whatever he wants. But if he does 5,000 tons, that's not good for me. I want him to make more, to hire more people. So I go to him, I say, why don't you make 1,000 tons? He said, I don't need to. It's a nightmare. Your administration is going to give me a hard time. The banks won't give me the money. And where am I going to sell it? I say, okay, you make the 1,000 tons, I'm going to see these banks, the credit, you're going to get the credit. And I go look for market for you because I want you to hire people. So you see, this is quite different. I involve myself in sectors that I think are key for me because that create job, because I have competitive advantage. And on these sectors, I am a catalyst. At every single step, I play a role. Take the role of regulator. Now, in the value chain, in the value chain, in the cocoa sector, the whole value chain of the cocoa sector is $105 billion. You know how much we get? Our producer? $5 billion. Out of $105 billion value. Now, if you sit there with your growers, that's not going to change. You have to take a part of that chain. You have to and they won't give it to you free. If you take the palm oil, another thing, the Malaysian expert that I took told me, with 10 hectares of palm oil, a Malaysian grower of palm oil can go to the bank, lend some money, and buy himself a car or buy a house. Someone who has 20 hectares of palm oil in my country can hardly have a car. Maybe a bicycle. So why? Let me finish. Why? Why he does that? Let me finish, because you step in, you have a hard time stopping. I'll finish with that. Because you know what Malaysia did? They say we control the value chains. This is the margin of the grower. This is the margin of the transformer. This is the margin of the distributors. At the end of the day, the margin is 100. I won't let the industrial guy take the biggest chunk of the market, because the producer will not be motivated anymore. So I share the margin among all the key stakeholders in the value chain, so that everyone earn enough to be motivated and keep on going. If you don't do that, the one who is the strongest one is going to take the whole part of the margin, and the whole thing will, scramble apart. So this is the kind of things that, I
understand. My microphone is not working anymore. Hello?
Yeah, you're not saying good things.
Hello? So, anyway, I understand. So this is a true paradigm shift, because this is something different from whatever we heard also in the past year. So if there is anybody who has questions, well, my microphone isn't working.
Someone told me that there will be something from Ethiopia in the room. I think the experience will be interesting for us, because if he's there, I will need him to have the floor sometimes.
Who has? Yes, the microphone.
I have my
Okay, can you wait, please, because our guest there has a microphone. No, he already has the microphone. I would like him to.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. That was a very enlightening discussion. I hope I can get that PowerPoint from you. I'm Lawrence Freeman. I'm an economist from the United States. I've been involved in Africa development policy for 30 years, and I'm a consultant to the Cote d'Ivoire Embassy in Washington, D.C. on economic policy. Your comments are absolutely in the right direction. This is not simply a dream. This can be done. It's been done throughout history for several hundred years. My country did it when we came out of 13 colonies. The role of the state, which of course Alassane Ouattara did emphasize from Ethiopia, if there's not someone here to speak about it, is primary in moving the private sector. And you identified the key area, credit. The issuance of credit to transform the production process is absolutely crucial. And the manufacturing side of it has to be developed. There was a study done on these countries you just went through from 1960, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, and they found that the difference was between those countries in Africa is those countries supplied credit and subsidies to their fledgling industries in the 1960s, and the African countries did not do that.
Yeah.
You can supply money from your capital budget. You can supply credit created by the state, such as you're doing in cocoa now, building a cocoa reprocessing plant, which you just initiated too. So I would like to know some of your detailed plans, the role of the state in credit, the role of the state in creating an infrastructure platform which increases the productivity of every worker and farmer in the country. Those are critical roles that the state plays an invaluable task for. And the creation of manufacturing, nurturing manufacturing, and these countries did it, and my country did it. We had protection to nurture a manufacturing industry, to protect it against England shipping over low consumer goods. And it's been done for hundreds of years, and it is successful. So I don't think it's just a dream. I think this is a scientific economic principle that can be applied. And I would like to know from you if you could give us a detailed picture of the kind of investment in manufacturing and infrastructure that you see over the next 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's inspiring. Yes, sir, you wanted to ask a question. And okay, our guest from Ethiopia.
Thank you, Johannes McBeb, Yeshi Group, and also the president of the American Chambers. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I first want to commend you for what you have done and what your government has done the last 10 years. I think we can look any way, and when we compare it to the neighboring countries and what's gone on in Africa, it's been quite impressive. What I want to ask you specifically, and I kind of see it in all the slides that you show, I recently came to find out that Côte d'Ivoire has the 12th most expensive electricity in the world. You were talking about cashew nuts, for example. In Vietnam, I believe that the electrical cost per kilowatt is something like 8 cents per kilowatt, whereas here it's 22. So even if we tell investors that yes, you can have 10 years of tax-free, energy, for me, is a principal component that has held, it's been transversal with industries and holding them back. I recently got into the hotel sector, for example, and I was appalled by the cost of energy in the hotel sector because obviously if someone has a hotel, it's a place where foreign investors will come and land. So we need 25 new hotels here, if not more. And I think that, like Ethiopia, I think that's something they got very right very early on. Electricity in Ethiopia is, I think, 2 or 3 cents per kilowatt. So you can start a factory of any sort without the energy cost being a risk component. Whereas here, it really is a risk component for an investor. So I'd like to know what you plan on doing there. And I also commend the government for using outside consultants such as McKinsey to assist with the development plan. And I think everything looks good, but energy is quite important moving forward. And also, as the gentleman said, protection in the manufacturing sector as well is critical. I work all over Central Africa, and I know of about 25 plywood factories that have stopped between Congo, Cameroon, Gabon, and the same plywood, or these factories have stopped. Wood gets exported from this area to China, and it's imported because there was no protection to these factories. So I think going forward, governments have to be a little bit smart and diligent with protecting, because obviously we need jobs. More things need to be transformed here with protection, obviously. So.
Thank you, sir. Energy and protection of the...
Yeah, I think that both questions are very interesting. And my first comment will be that what I call the paradigm shift is not as obvious as everybody will think, because the relationship that we've had with the lending institution and so many other stakeholders in the financial sectors were so oriented in a term like the state has nothing to do as far as relationship is concerned with a merchant sector. The word is using is merchant private, But you have to, create the proper environment, and energy is one. Now, I cannot go and talk about bringing down the cost of energy, because I don't just rise up my price of energy because I want to take tax, It's a structure of the cost, Being hydro, being a turbine-fired gas station, whatever, it goes with the financial institution, financing my project or myself, and at the end of the day, I have to reimburse the loan, and we all calculate, the cost of production and everything. So you will see that the cost of electricity in Côte d'Ivoire is certainly the cheap in the area. I'm not talking about, Asia or anything else, but at least in the area, we're among the cheapest. Now, when we're talking about with the private sector coming in or being catalyst, what we've seen is that if I identify the cashew nut or any other sector as my key priority sector, then I take a whole bunch of these people within the country and we lock ourselves down in a room for a month. And I'll say, now, what is the problem? Because I need you guys in the next 10 years to reach that level. Come down with every single bottleneck or challenges that both of us have to meet to reach that point. I will have my part to do. You'll have your part to do. You need to have the return on investment you're expecting being reasonable, and I need also to do my part. Maybe more than I would have expected that I should do in the beginning. But I know that 20, 30 years down, I'll be where I should be. But in the next 10 years, I will have maybe to work in my electricity, to work in that. So what I'm saying is that the relationship is different. You see, we have inherited a culture of the administration where the private sector, I'm sorry, look like sometimes the enemy. He's the guy who's making too much money. He's the guy who is hiding his money, doesn't want to give it to me. He's the guy I should control every day, otherwise he's the guy. So the private sector is seeing the administration as something heavy. When he's counting about his bottleneck, the administration is one of the bottleneck, where it should not. When you come to me and you tell me, I want to make a business in your country, and I see it's a priority sector for me, I run after you. I don't let you sleep. I am the one who serve you. I'm the one who please you. But that's not what happened. The whole culture of the administration has to change. The administration have to realize that they are not creating jobs, and jobs is the problem yet. They are not creating the same revenue. They need to finance the social sector, the infrastructure sector. The private sector is the one who's going to give them the money. The private sector is the king. You serve him. Otherwise, you don't survive in the long term. You see? And that also, you have to do it at a certain period. In the country where it's stated that the state should play a less role and the private sector should let by itself move, are the countries that did what I'm talking about 100, 200 years ago. Now the private sector is big enough, the institutional framework of country, banking sector, all these sectors are big enough so that each one play the key role, But when you start from, greenfield, and you say the private sector is the engine of growth, but there's no private sector. Who created the private sector? How this pie, which is the private sector, become big enough so that they have their share, I have my share, and we're all happy. If you are not a catalyst, you will never get there. So the answer is, yes, there is a solution. Being energy, being whatever, there is a solution, but we sit and we talk face to face, because I'm not trying to help you because you're nice, you're my friend. I'm helping you because it serves my interest. And if you don't grow, I have a problem. Because who's going to take care of my youth that I've trained? Where am I going to get money to grow? So the first thing I'm saying is that every single issue concerning the private sector, which is in the field where I think that I have a competitive advantage and that can create job and I have my own interest, I have to listen to these people. It's not just a monthly or a yearly meeting to talk about fiscal issue. That's not that. That's hands on hands, both together, we move forward to a common adventure. There's not the private sector adventure, the public sector adventure. There's a country's adventures with key players. Does that answer your question? It's a change of philosophy where we will necessarily find solution because we have the same objectives, and it's a win-win, a situation. Now, to answer the case of my fellow gentleman over there, today, the key sectors that we've pinpointed is, first of all, modernization of agriculture. We are in some area producing like our grandparents were doing, with machete, with all that, where today you don't even think about that. We're not using less than 5% use of water in the agriculture sector, where we have plenty of water. A serious issue of productivity, no mechanization. So now we will modernize our agriculture. It's a way range of businesses that we can have there. If you do not improve the sectors, the agricultural basic sector, so that it has among the best yield, manufacturing is useless because you're losing all the productivity within the agriculture. That's why you should start to win. Use fertilizer, use water, use mechanization, use every single thing that gets you the best cost of production and the best yield. Then you move to manufacturing, where you improve also with electricity, so on and so forth. So cocoa is one of the sector, coffee, cashew nut, rubber, cotton, our main, production. Then also fruit, for instance. I'm thinking we are losing more than 50% of our pineapple and our fruit just by this tree. Storage is an issue. Logistics is an issue. The producer is doing it almost. If you don't find a solution of storage or first manufacturing or transformation on the field before you move forward to the next field, then you have a problem. So if you take every single area where we are and where we're good, we realize that with a little amount of money or involvement, we can improve by 20, 30, sometimes to 50%. Create job, improve yield, improve revenue. Then manufacturing also come. Hotels, yes, for sure, is a key sector for us, digital economy is a key sector for us, our youth. This is less investment in equipment, it's more brain, But there are some of, the bottleneck, and the issue today is we have to share, and the administration has to do its part. As far as efficiency, if you are a businessman, you come in the country where you're supposed to be having a proper environment, where you are in a sector where it's supposed to be the priority sector, and 3 months after you send them a letter, they haven't answered yet, then you have a problem. If you ask for a question and 2 months down you still don't have the answer, you have a problem. Efficiency of the administration is the key factor. That's why in some countries you have delivery unit, because ministries cannot be the one who will answer the question. Delivery unit is a unit, in which you have all the people have all the power to take all decisions related to the key sector, going to the license, to the security of the land, to the electricity, whatever you need for your field to be able to move very quick, very fast is an issue. So transformation of the administration to make it possible will be a big challenge for us. Governance is going to be a good, because, I have the impression that sometimes in our environment, we do not enough value brain. If you don't value brain, you don't move nowhere. Brain has a value. You have to recognize this value. You have to pay for the value. If someone tells you, because you have done, let's say, 20 years, and then you have got a master's degree, and it's fine. Here, the master's degree's salary is this. You're brilliant, you're not brilliant. This is master's degree salary. It doesn't work like that. I earn 10. If I hire you with your master's degree, I grow from 10 to 20. If I hire another master's degree, I go from 10 to 12. So that has nothing to do with that has to do with your potential, your creativity, your added value. That's where I value your brain. And sometimes that's what you have in the administration. No one is needed. If you want to go, just go. But you tell me you want to go, I say don't go. If you go, my business go down. You are valuable to me. You see. So valuing brain is, I think, another thing. Leadership is, another thing. Yeah. So, I think that it's a long way to go, and like he asked about it, but my fear is not the direction. My fear is the capacity of the administration who is going to be the chief of the orchestra, the administration who is going to be the leading power, capacity to be able to leadership the vision. I think that's where the real challenge held, for the country who have succeeded.
And it takes a cultural change. So, yes, I need the microphone. Yes, sir. Can you bring the microphone over here? Yes, yes, yes. And yes, here. Thank you. Can you wait? And Mr. Minister of State, I will take more than one question so that we can have straightforward answers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Minister of State. My name is Sanogo Bakari. I'm a communication specialist, a New York University graduate. You're talking about, you just talked about valuing brain. So this takes to the issue of human capital you raised earlier. So how are you going to tackle this issue? Because this definitely seems to be an issue in Côte d'Ivoire, with about 6% of the country, the government budget being poured into education, and the output seems unsatisfactory. Second remark on, you didn't say anything on high-tech information technology, knowing that you are from Stanford University, Stanford being in California. So how do you think, how do you see the role, the place of information technology or high-tech in the transformation of the economy? Finally, on the poverty reduction, there is a big controversy on the issue. Okay, we know the figures, the World Bank figures, the regional economic and monetary unions figures, what you gave us, 55% of poverty rate in 2011 and about 90% in 2018. But some say poverty is still around. Finally, is that a political debate or a technical debate?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Can I give you the microphone to the one just next to you there? Yes, I mean, I hope we have the chance to give the floor to every one of our guests tonight.
Thank you, Mr. State Minister. I'm Mr. Mehmet Ndiaye, CEO of Black Pearl, a merchant banking firm with offices here in Johannesburg. You mentioned the fact that we're going to have a more proactive government supporting the private sector. In practical terms, will we have some kind of guarantee mechanism for loans from the government? Or are we going to have export credit agency from Cote d'Ivoire? Or what type of practical mechanism will be put in place for the private sector to be able just to raise some equity, for instance, for private projects? The second level of my question is regarding those strategic sectors that you talked about. Mainly, I will talk about the cocoa sector because I used to be the senior trader for the Coffee and Cocoa Board back in 2011, 2014. So, in practical terms, will Côte d'Ivoire still continue to be a producer of beans, or will we be finally a global powerhouse in the production of cocoa butter, cocoa cake? And if so, what are the incentives the government is going to put in place? Are we going to have a market for butter because it's not regulated, the butter for powder, for cake? Are we going to impose ourselves as a manufacturing powerhouse or still continue to be the #1 producer of cocoa beans? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I lead the microphone. Can you hear me? Okay, so. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Aaron Ross. I'm a reporter with Reuters. I was wondering, because we are a few days from the presidential election, I'm wondering how you think investors are perceiving the electoral process that's underway. I'm particularly interested for investors who have been, who have not gotten into Cote d'Ivoire up to this point, who have been staying on the sidelines, keeping an eye on how things are going, and waiting for 2020. Concerned about the political situation, the business environment. How do you think that they are perceiving the process? Do you think they'll come away from the election reassured? Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Minister of State, we have a number of questions. The country that you're talking about is something that we're dreaming of, but we believe that it's going to be a hard work to actually make the cultural, the mindset change. And we trust you to have this energy to make it happen. So we have a number of questions. The brain, the ICT, so I mean, and the loan mechanisms that you're contemplating to implement.
Okay, as far as question asked by Sanogo, quite a few of them, talking about value brain and the situation where we are, our education system has declined, and we really have to work it out. I think that once again, let's go for all these points that have been raised to these specific countries that have succeeded that he was talking about earlier. If you don't have that brain at home for the high level people am I talking about, you go and get them outside. Go and see in the US, that's one of the biggest success. They don't care where you come from. The guy has his lab of research. He want to find something. You be Chinese, you be Indian, you be African. He just hire the people. I was there, you said, in the West Coast, and I used to see this huge lab with 1,000 PhDs within it. 18 nationalities. They don't care about it. They're looking for brain. Brain is the value. And sometimes I think that, we're talking about too much things, If I have to start something tomorrow, and the guy who's going to lead the thing is the Malaysian, I went all the way to Malaysia. I get the guy.
Sure.
He comes here. I pay him the price I have to pay. Hey, he is wise guys. And I have young guys. I get them with him and they move forward, So I think that this is where the issue of the diaspora will come in. Because we have all these Ivorians that are outside. Some of them want to come in, and they want to feel like, the country is ready for them. And I think that when I look at Vietnam, Vietnam has a specific program to go and grab his, diaspora outside. The regular functionary salary in Vietnam will know what it is. But the guy he goes grab from the US, the Vietnamese guy, he has a package for the guy. But he has a vision, he has an objective, he needs the guy, he pays the price for that. He moves forward, He knows that in the end of the day he's going to win. So I think that, every time these countries have decided to go for it, not every single issue had a solution home, You have to be very creative, but for every problem, believe me, there is a solution. That might not be the one you're thinking about. That might need more effort than you think, but if you really want it, you'll find a solution to it. So the brain, even if right now, yes, we do have some problem in education that comes from, 20 years back, there are solutions for it. Yes, I talk about the digital economy. I say this is one of my key priority sectors. No one today, we know that, 20, 30 years from now, 40% of the job that we know will disappear, if not more. And if you don't get ready for that, you'll be lost. So you have to be in. Sometimes if you don't even know where you're going, you have to train your people. You have to try a couple of things, and I think we'll be into digital economy. Poverty reduction is two. Technical, scientific issue, or just a reality issue, people feeling poor when you say that they are not poor. I think that it's not a matter of number, and that's why, you know, I was talking about the human being is at the center of everything. You know, the strength that I've seen in some of these countries that have succeeded is that in every single project that they conceive, they think about the impact of the human being. You know, the impact. Because if that cannot raise the life of people, then it's useless. At the end of the day, the human being is at the beginning and at the end of every single process. So you cannot think about a development where at the end of the day it doesn't rise the living standard of the human being. So it's as simple as that. I start a manufacturing of cocoa, whatever thing, you know, I think about the grower, I think about the industrial, I think about the employee, I think about everything. How is it going to improve the life of these people? A decent life for every of them. I think that sometimes we haven't been quite close to this kind of thinking, you know. You build something and you build it because you build it, and then you start to think after, oh, it looks like it doesn't create enough job. It looks like, no. If it doesn't, you don't even start. So yes, there's poverty alleviation. Yes, we can rise up the standard of people. Yes, I think that 10 years from now, we were at a very, very low level. We have increased, but you know, the discussion we're having yesterday, because that's what you're talking about, the journalist was asking me the question. He said in 2007, you had 10 million of the poor. And today, you still have 10 million of poor. So you didn't move nowhere. I say, yes, I did move. Because in 2007, we were 19 million of people. And in 2019, we're 25 million. So 10 million people where you have 25 million people and 20 million of poor when you have 19 million people, that's quite different. If we're going to keep the same ratio, we will have 14 million poor right now, which we don't have. So we're moving forward, you see. But the task is really high when you're coming from so low. So it improved, but people feel it so slowly that you have the impression that it doesn't impact them. But yet it does move. Numbers mean something. But you need to move much faster, much higher for the global people to start to feel it. But I think we're going to get there. As far as our friend from Blackburn was talking about, yes, cocoa is going to be a global business. We're going to get into the whole value chain. Enough is enough. We cannot stand and we will not survive to stay growers of beans and traders of beans. President Ouattara has set up 2025 for us to manufacture 2 million tons of cocoa beans. How are we going to do it? Where are we going to start? We don't know fully the answer right now, but I swear to you, we're going to get there. Somehow, somewhere. People have done it before us, and we think we can do it. Not alone, but we will do it. We've started 100,000 tons. 50,000 tons start to be built in Anyama. 50,000 tons are starting to be built in San Pedro, and we're going to move forward. But we have to move next step further. 10 years back, there was too many challenges getting from the crisis to start to think about what we're thinking now. But now is the time. Now things are ripe, and I think that now we were out fully, laying down. Not we up walking. We can think about running. So I have not really doubt. As far as the banking and credit allocation to the system is concerned, the credit allocated in Vietnam to the private sector to GDP is 133rd. 133 is credit allocated to the private sector, to the economy, to GDP. Here is 27, meaning there's not enough. The risk here, you don't just throw money into the economy when the private sector is not able to absorb. You don't want to create inflation. You don't want to destabilize, bring distortion. So you have to push the private sector in many ways so that they be able to absorb the allocation of credit, increase in allocation of credit. Yes, we are going to the guarantee. We are going to be in equity. We are going to set up special investment funds. We have already created what we call caisse de dépôt et de consignation. We're going to find many ways of raising funds, not only for guarantee, but also for equity. I have to tell you the truth. People might not like that, but we're not interested in taking majority shares. We want private sector to be private sector and to manage what they have to manage. But we need to bridge the gap for them to start. We're going to be the kickstarter. We're not going to be the manager. We're going to championship people in different fields and push them forward and all the way to the market. I'll take my bag. I'll go to China. I'll go to Russia. I'll go to the States. I'll go to France. I'll sell product of my private sector, me being in the administration. That's what people have done. You talk, sometimes I hear talking about iron here, iron there, Europe and US, it's an issue. Yes, Brussels is saying that, Trump says no. I say, gee, where are the private sectors? I don't see them. The US doesn't have iron business manufacturing. Brussels doesn't have it. Behind that, they are businessmen, they are private sector, but the issue goes beyond the companies themselves because it's job issue, it's revenue issues, it comes with state. People make it things that we have nothing to do with that. We just have to sit here and our country is the market for everybody. We stop that now, it's finished. Our eyes are open, we've seen how people did it. We're going to take the same pathway. Reuters, political issue. You concerned about something? You're not the winner yet. You haven't made a choice. It's 2 days from now. No. Yes, I understand that it might be a subject of concern to some people, and to make it more serious, I think that it's unfortunate. I agree with you that 10 years after what we've survived, 20 years after what we went through, it happened to go the way it goes like that. I'm sorry for the young generation. I think they just don't deserve that. I think the country doesn't deserve that. I talked to you about 10 years standstill where nothing happened in the country, nothing moved. It's almost a lost generation. We cannot take a chance for another 10 years for that. It's as simple as that. It's not a matter of Alassane Ouattara or whoever, this one and this one. It's a matter of the country. We cannot take a chance to play with this country. We've gone too high. Have declined too low. And we've battled so hard the past 10 years to still stand, to give a chance to any kind of crazy idea of doing I don't know what with this country. And I think that the country is stable enough. I was talking to you about yesterday with the people. I said, look, this country, we've done everything we could do with reconciliation. Just after 6 years, the United Nations troops went out of the country. They felt that they didn't need to be here anymore. In Lebanon, that's 42 years and they're still there. In Liberia, it's 70 years and the troops are still there. Here, just after 6 years, the country got back to stability, to peace, to security, enough for them to live. We were elected again at the United Nations for 2 years, and in the Security Council as non-permanent member to exchange the experience we've had on getting out of the crisis so fast and so successfully for so many other areas of the world which are in crisis. We have a strong army, we have institutions, people are living in peace, they're doing their daily work, but I think we have a problem with our politicians. This is the truth. Don't mix that up with the population. Some of them are manipulated, but honestly, I think that we politicians, we should stop that game. Our people don't deserve that. One way or the other, we have to understand ourselves, find a way through to keep peace, to keep stability. Otherwise, all of us are going to be in trouble. You know that in our border, the issue of terrorism is there. We're fighting against this. So far, we've been successful. But any failure in the country going down again might expose us to things that none of us want. So I am praying that everything goes fine, that in a couple of days a new president be elected, and that the country move forward as it's been doing in the 10 past years. And I have reason to think that it's going to be so, because the people with whom I'm living in a very single day, I'm president of my region, I'm a parliamentary of this country, and I can listen to people every single day. And we listen to them, they don't talk what the politicians are talking. So don't mix up what you read in the paper, what the politicians talk their head off, with what is the daily life of people. I think the country is more stable now. We're not like 10 years back, and hopefully things are going back to normal in a few months from now. I'm very confident about it. I wouldn't be talking about 10 years strategy if I didn't feel this is possible.
Thank you, sir. So this is also one of my questions. So this question is answered. Yes, there was a lady there who wanted to ask a question, and I have. Please, can you come here to the? I need a microphone here, and it will go back to you, sir. Thank you. Here. And from Zoom, I have some question on the role of economic diplomacy in the economic growth of the country. What has been the role of the Ivorian diplomats in the value chain of such growth during the revival period, the past 10 years? So that's a question. I would like you to wait for the other question so that you can give a one-shot answer. Yes.
Honorable Minister, my name is Valérie Venkatachalam. I'm the representative of the Tony Blair Institute in Côte d'Ivoire. And Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of the UK, whom you know invented the delivery unit mechanism. And what you are describing as a picture and as a methodology is really inspiring. I think at the point where Côte d'Ivoire is with the development that we've seen over the last years, adopting a sector strategy or a new type of partnership and industrial policy on certain priority sectors is definitely the right move, as some of my colleagues have said. There's going to be a lot to be done very soon. I wanted to know what you would be starting with.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take, yes, can you bring, yes, the microphone here? So there are two of you, so I'm going to give you the microphone.
Thank you.
To everyone of you.
Thank you. Outstanding presentation, Mr. Minister. I'm Mustafa Toure, Bachelor of Science from North Carolina Central. I co-own a cashew nut factory in Odiene, which I'm so positively happy that you're getting involved into agriculture, into the resolution of the country economic direction. My suggestion is more of a suggestion, not so much of a question. The government has done an outstanding work in putting in place policies, especially in the cashew business. In 2018, you put in place an incentive for exporters to give away part of the export volume to the transformers. The putting in practice of those policies really is what the problem is. Because building a 250 million factory, CFA factory in Odiene to decentralize and to create jobs is not the problem. It's buying those 3,000 tons of cashew kernel at 5,000 francs a kilo, which is 1.5 billion CFA, which the bank will not give you despite the guarantee. Well, they'll call you, but they'll call you in June when the campaign is over, when you're getting a cashew kernel which will not produce the required. So my suggestion, I'm not going to extend too much, the time has gone away, is to actually, the policy that you put in place were not bad policies, but they need to be followed. As you mentioned just a few minutes ago, you know that you need an executionary team, someone who follows up. And what we decided when we meet the transformers, we did meet with the Conseil Coton Anacard and so on and so forth, but the putting in practice of those policies is actually not what's done. Clear. Same thing as in the rice business. We used to have Satmasi, we used to purchase the production of all the farmers. My family owned 8,000 acres of land in Odiene. And we actually tried to do 60 hectares of rice this year, and we actually didn't get the seeds. So these are the kind of things that actually just need to be reinforced. The policies are good, they just need to be followed up. Thank you.
That's great. The last question. Yes, to the man just behind. Yeah, so how effective is the implementation of the reforms? So that's the point, yeah.
Mr. Minister, I would like to thank you very much for this presentation. The data looks extremely good for someone like me who lived outside of the Ivory Coast for the past 20 years. Joe Nyakale, I'm the CEO and founder, Louis du Group, New England Institute of Technology. My question here is more so of me sharing basically my experience. So someone like me who actually decided to leave everything in the United States, the good work, the great salary, packing my backpack, coming home, extremely motivated with two principles: bringing my professional aptitude to the service of my country and my educational knowledge. So we come here as motivated, passionate, enthusiasm as we are, and with the American brain, we like to compete. And we have no problem with competition. But at some instance, I feel like the competition is not fair enough. Just to quote you, you said in some of your answers earlier that brain is the value. There is a program per se in Malaysia where they go always to the diaspora to get the best talent. So my question is, when the brains comes to you, when people like me or either here that come with this passion, they know how to do the job. They compete with the in-place company, and sometimes it's the same company over and over who get granted the government project, the government contract, and at the end of the day, the end result is poor, while the brain is there, while we motivate it and we want to do the job. And it feels almost like if you don't have a godfather in the inner circle of the government, you're in bad shape, in bad luck, and we want to compete. So where there is a godfather, you almost feel like it's a mafia. And we here, we are the brain. Me personally, on my experience, maybe some of us here, I work for American Airlines, the world's largest airline. I implemented technology project. I recreated the website, the mobile application, everything for Air Côte d'Ivoire. Multiple times, nobody will even listen to me. An Ivorian, for 7 years, I worked for the world's largest airline at the headquarters in Dallas, Texas. I know it all. I know all the secrets for the success. But nobody will listen to me here. And I am the brain. And we are the brain. And I came back to my country after 19 years in the US with a backpack. Today, my IT startup, I have 11 youngsters from the Ivory Coast that I've hired, that work with me. we can compete. No project, no nothing. Even the laissez-passer for Corona. In 2 days, my team and I, we didn't say we developed the program very much. I reached out to the minister, cabinet member. We can't compete because we don't have a godfather.
It
So
seems
my
that
question to you,
it seems that
Mr.
this is the old Côte d'Ivoire.
Yeah. So my question to you, Mr. Minister, I see the American mentality in you. I see the vision for the next 10 years. What are you doing about us? What can you do for us? And lastly, to finish, I would love to keep in touch with you. If I can have your business card, that would be great.
Yes, sure.
I guess he's really looking for a godfather.
He's trying to recruit his new godfather. Well, actually, I did you see the face of the Minister of State? He was very affected to discover that you've been suffering so much with your brain.
Definitely.
Sir, you have the
Definitely.
floor.
No, very rapidly, as far as economic diplomacy is concerned, I guess this is an issue. We came and found ambassadors in different countries, and we have to deal with backlog. It's not a matter of 1 to 2 days. An ambassador, it takes the time to train them, so on and so forth. Some of them were, the average age was an issue. For 10 years, we've been trying to rationalize and to optimize, but when you start economic diplomacy, it has to be worked 2 ways. We tell the ambassador, go and sell the country. Now, he goes, sells the country really well, give all this publication about how the country is doing well, what is the business environment, so on and so forth. And the guy, get a team of 3 or 5 people, and the guy comes in. And they meet a couple of people, and they go back, and 3 months after that, nothing. Nothing happened. 6 months, nothing happened. You see? And then, the ambassador who is there, very active, next time, when people come to see him, he say, yeah, I'm going to think. We'll see. So, country has to be ready, and it's a matter of private sector, and it's a matter of government. In the same way, you need to have a well-organized private sectors with quality production before you go and you start to talk about selling, So if you do not do the proper job before, it's going to be a real problem. But from what I've been saying on the strategic plan that I've developed, you have to understand that the next generation of ambassador or embassy that we're going to open in countries or that are in countries will have like first job developing the private sector of their country. They'll be looking for market. They'll be looking for key issues, Myself, I've been very fortunate to travel quite a lot of time with my head of state in different countries. And every time we happen to meet some foreign ministers and things like that, they talk about all these politics issue, and at the end of the day, the guy has, a document with, the commercial balance, yes, Mr. President, we feel like we need to do something about it. We're selling you that, but you're not buying enough from us, we should work it out. So I felt like, no, what does the head of state has to do with that? You guys, you buy your thing, you do your thing. It doesn't work like that. It means in the mind of the countries, countries are selling things to each other. That's what makes business. That's what creates jobs. So yes, eco-diplomacy, it's a very important thing. A diplomat has to be trained on that. And the next generation in the strategic planning program that we have, we're going to have embassies that are going to play a very big economic role. As far as our sister from Tony Blair Institution talking about, being very excited about, what we've been doing and where we're heading from there. So what you're asking is next step. Next step is the 32nd of October. which mean we are in the implementation stage. I know that you guys are working with the bird enclave project, the cashew nut and all this issue, and I think that things should be moving much faster, hopefully, on the implementation side. So cocoa will be an issue, cashew will be an issue, cotton will be an issue, fruit and vegetable will be an issue. We have so many, agro business that will be an issue, and I think, and that's where we all have to talk about. And he was talking about, you need first a vision, which has to be transformed into a political will, which has to be transformed into a policy, which has to be transformed in institutional framework that are going to do the implementation. If you miss just one level, the whole thing scramble apart. I can bring you guys in, very bright, very intelligent, with a will, but somewhere down the line, because one of these things will be missing, you won't be able to achieve the mission you brought for and paid for, unfortunately, even though you have the will to do so. But not just because the head of state wants one thing, that goes all the way straight to the bottom. So the issue now, and that's why I've been talking, the issue today is not really the private sector. The issue today is within the administration and the government. And that's why I added up two things. I say there should be a paradigm shift as far as the economic policy, the state realizing that it has to be more involved in some aspect of the development of the private sector. But for that to be successful, the state himself has to realize he needs to have a structural, cultural, and governance change. If you don't do that change, it will never work. It's not just a matter of will or thinking or wishful thinking, no. And that's where it hurts, because people have so much habits that making them change from one day to the other will not be as easy as we think it is. Let's not dream. That's why I talked about delivery unit. If you have a delivery unit concentrated into transforming raw cashew nut and send them to the market, and these very people in that institution have been delegated the power that the ministries have on their hand, so that they could take any decision that need the project to be successful without going to any other places, then it will change things. But if we ask you something, sitting in a room somewhere where you need to talk to 10 people in different ministries before you can move 1 inch, you can take 3 years, my sister, and you'll be still there, talking there, feeling you don't move, and yet you have nothing to do with that. This is the system. So if the system doesn't change, whatever the leadership want will not be achieved. So the change have to start with ourselves. And that's why he was talking, the cashew nut sector. Political will is there. Decision has been taken. Decree has been taken. But it doesn't move. Implementation is the issue. The capacity of the delivery unit. Because if I create a delivery unit and the guy running the delivery unit doesn't understand a bit of what we're talking about, forget about it. That's where come the meritocracy and the governance. If I have to go to Vietnam, to India, to pick up the guy who knows about the business to come and run that, don't tell me that need to be an Ivorian. My issue is not there. My issue is to get down to transform my raw cashew nuts. So, people, there is training to be made, The diaspora, you can have something, an Ivorian working to Vietnam in the business, and he will come, he'll say, I need 10 times more than what you guys are earning. Don't tell him here that the salary above that, we don't need you. That's another story. So you have a really a challenge in changing the culture, the administration, that has to run all these things. So I believe with you that the change is possible. We will not change everything every day or everything in one day. A Harvard professor that worked with us in the change of the administration told us, look, we agree with your paradigm shift in the administration, but be very careful. In the administration, you don't change everything at once. Pick up 1, 2, or 3 things that are key and change them. And then go to the next step. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And what you're talking about also has to do not only with the administration you mentioned, but the banking system. Because the banking systems are living in the comfort zone. These people are there. They are not asked to do any priority to anything. They finance what they want, when they want. They make so much money that they stay in the comfort zone. But it doesn't work like that. You cannot come, get my deposit, finance who you want, where you want, make your money, and be happy. I don't think that works like that. I define priority sectors where the economy should be financed. And in fact, when you look at most of these countries who have leapfrog, quite a number of banks are national banks. They are not private banks. Because sometimes the interest is not the same. The guy is there, he wants to make his money. He doesn't want to be working in this sector because it's too risky for him. And he works where he wants. It's a free economy. The free economy has its limit when you want to do things that what I'm talking about. Or you talk to the bank and you say, I want you to finance this sector. I'm going to subsidy. I'm going to give that much guarantee. But sometimes when you tell that to him, he doesn't have anything to do because every single money he'll lose, you're going to reimburse. So he hire all this bunch of people who do nothing, he doesn't even train. You put them, the whole thing fail, and it's guaranteed. So credit is a major issue. Banking is a major issue. People won't finance agriculture. Yet you cannot modernize agriculture without credit and financing. Less than 5% of total credit goes to agriculture. Yet we're a major agricultural country because agriculture is not modernized. How you can go for fertilizer, how you can go for mechanization, how you can go for genetics, how you can go for water if you're not financed. But if you finance, how do you reimburse? To reimburse, who do you sell to? It's a whole chain. So you have to create an ecosystem that will make the whole thing survive. So this project you're talking about, the banks have made the thing fail. They didn't play the game because the state did its part, and you know it. The guy took his money, financed his all with his own equity, financed the whole thing just for the working capital. The bank was not asked to give money to finance the investment, but just for the working capital. They didn't do it. And they also don't understand the revenue cycle. The guy is there, the crop is harvested yearly at a certain time, it takes 3 months. If you don't pay your raw cashew nut in the stock before 3 months, the quality you can get, you cannot manufacture it anymore. So in 3 months, you have to have bought all your stock. The guy tells you, it needs 3 months for my board to give you the answer. What the hell is that? So I know what you're talking about, and it's a whole ecosystem to change. The administration has to change, but the banking system has to change. Otherwise, the state will have no choice but to start to work in some area with banks where the state has equity or where the state has the power to make things move. I got? My godson? godson. I left him for the last part of it, you know. Unfortunately, my godson is right, and that brings me back 40 years back, you know, where I just finished my studies, and Palo Alto was full of looking for engineer and all kind of people. In fact, in class, we have a professor in venture capital, and that guy will come with so dreaming stories, you know. He tells you the story, and you feel like, you know, right after school, you're going to be millionaires. You know, no one in the business class wants to do anything else but create his own company, sell anything crazy, you know. And I had that in my stomach. I came back home here with that. You know, as long as I was employees, I was mad. I said, I'm not making money. That's what I should make out of my life. I should make something. Unfortunately, I did it. I find myself at the end of the day within the administration and being happy because that's another ecosystem. So you come to a new ecosystem with a brain that doesn't belong to the place I know. So both of these things have to match. But to be more serious, you are the kind of people I'm looking for right now. You are yeah. We don't need to get to God yet, you know, but still, yes, you are the right man. You know, we will not change this country with other people than you guys. You know, things have to come from deep down. You know, you have to believe, you have to feel, you have to be passionate about it, you have to believe it, you have to think it's possible, and you will one day find a guy who will be on your way. Call him Godfather or whatever, but today, I'm the man. I'm the man, you know. We need people like you guys, and we need many other people, because we're going to create a body here that will go after the diaspora. There's no way we can succeed the dream I just talked about without our best people out in the world. We want you guys. We want you to come. We want to talk with you. We want to give you a chance. And that is not, the country will be your godfather, not a man. The country will be your godfather. So keep in touch. Let's keep in touch. And let's come back 1 year from now. And I think that, you will be certainly something else than, what you are today. But please, don't lose faith, Don't lose faith in this country. President Ouattara is making the right shift at the right moment for people like you guys and all other people that really want to see Côte d'Ivoire become as big as it's been before for all of us. But I'm not questioning what you've been talking about. Some practices are exactly what you said, and this is exactly what we want to change when we're talking about structural reform of the administration and the governance. That cannot keep on going anymore if we want to be what these people who've leapfrogged have been able to do. We need to change. The pace at which we will be able to change will determine, how fast we can get to the objective we want to get. But this is the way, and this is the path. So reinsure in your deep feeling that you haven't made the wrong choice, that this is a difficult way, but that you will get there if you keep as passionate as you are.
Thank you, sir. I think we can put our hands together to congratulate our keynote speaker. And we have answered questions like the role of the diaspora in this new strategy. The leapfrog, it's important because we talked about industrializing the cocoa sector, the agricultural sector, but we also talk about the fourth industrial revolution. So we needed to have some, but we cannot cover all these things, maybe in other circumstances. We talked about a little bit about the rule of law, how to preserve our citizens from all the cases of corruption. But all this is based on the benchmark that was made with other nations that went very fast in their growth and in their transformation. We also covered a point on peace and security, thanks to our men from Reuters. And what we think is that, oh, this is possible, but it will take energy, hard work, not only to change the system, but to change the minds, because we don't change a system the way we change a mind. So we believe we'll have enough strength and energy. And I would like to give the floor back to our keynote speaker, because it's over. I'm closing, and we're going to the cocktail place. What do you think the biggest legacy of your administration should be to the next generation? This is how I would like to introduce your conclusion.
Yes, I used to say on some speeches that I make here and there that I've been very fortunate to be among the people in my generation that President Houphouët dreamed that one day will transform the nation. He has put so much energy, so much money in training people, hoping that one day these very people will be the one that will make the next step. And this is the reason why, even though I had the opportunity to stay in the state after I finished, I decided to come back. Because I felt that it will be difficult for me to finish a life over there and feel like I'm happy. Because I feel like I owe to people who've made me what I am today. I owe them something, If I've got the chance to do the schools I've done, if I got the chance to you've got the chance to have the experience that I have, it has to serve so that the next generation will be handed over something better than that I've received myself. And this is a responsibility. And this is why the private sector that I was in for 15 years, I couldn't stay that. Because making money myself or helping a boss making money was great, but that was not enough for me. Looking at a country which is an underdeveloping country with all this population that needs so much, when you feel that you can add up so much to move up a country, you should not just miss that opportunity, because I don't think there's anything that makes you feel good about yourself that having the feeling that you have made change to move the world and make it better. So my last word will be, we need to be a critical mass to reach that change. If I'm alone, if we two, three, we will not be enough to realize that dream. I want people who believe in what I've said, who feel that this is the way, who are living in this country or outside, to join me in this dream, to make that adventure become true. And I think we can do it, and I think it's possible. You ask it. And I really hope this meeting that we've conveyed here, and that you guys came, is the beginning of something, For all you guys who've got the experience outside, who are working here, who feel like this country deserves much better than that, and who are willing to contribute to the change, to make things move. I want you guys that we join in. We might have other, meeting like that, to see on a very practical way what is next step, like you just say. Let's make it not just a keynote speaker entertaining people who are very happy about listening something, like we used to say in the state, and I will end up with that. We've talked the talk. Now let's walk the walk. Thank you very much,
Mr. Minister of State. Thank you so much, and we also thank all these people who were on Zoom. So we greet them also. Thank you so much for having been with us Thank you, thank you, thank you. I need, so normally we should take some pictures, but I don't know the yet. So thank you. I think it's over. We'll give a chance to the Minister of State maybe to leave this place in the first place.